How do you replace eggs in a cake recipe? That is by far the question that I get asked the most as a vegan baker. I mean, we all know cakes to be flour, sugar, oil, and yes, eggs. So if you take eggs out, how do you make a cake? Most importantly, how do you make a cake that actually tastes good? On today's video, I'm going to be walking you through the process of replacing eggs in a cake recipe. And you know, as the owner of a vegan bakery that's made hundreds of delicious vegan cakes, you know these pro tips are actually going to work. Let's do this. The first step is figuring out how important the egg is in your recipe. So is it an essential worker or is it replaceable? I would say as a general rule, if you have up to 3 eggs in the recipe, that's a doable task. Anything more than that, and you're fighting an uphill battle. It took me 10 years to figure out a brownie recipe that tasted just like the real deal, but it had no eggs, because the regular brownies have like 6 eggs in them. It's a really important part of the recipe. Eclairs, I love them so much, but I have yet to have a vegan eclair that I'm impressed by, because choux pastry is basically all eggs. Does that mean it's impossible to do? Absolutely not. But adjust your expectations accordingly if your recipe has more than 3 eggs in it, because you're fighting an uphill battle and it's going to be harder to do. Number 2 is figuring out exactly what the egg is in your recipe for, what the main purpose is. So eggs have 3 main purposes in a recipe. Number 1, they act as a binder, meaning they're the glue that holds all the ingredients together. Number 2, they add moisture. That yolk has a lot of fat, and that translates into moisture in your cake. And number 3, they add structure, meaning they're one of the building blocks that help the cake rise and become essentially a cake. So you need to look at your recipe and figure out, why are the eggs there? What are they doing mainly? So if you have something more dense like banana bread, then the main job is probably adding moisture. If you have something tall like angel food cake, then obviously the structure part is really what the egg is there for. Look at your recipe and figure out, what are we doing here? What is the egg doing here as its main purpose? And then the next thing you're going to do is find the right egg replacer for your recipe. Repeat after me, everybody. Egg replacements are not one size fits all. Got it? Got it? Got it? Great. Now that you know that, you're not going to be making that mistake of going online and trying to find the magical egg replacer that will fulfill all of the different roles for all the recipes forever and all time. Right? Right. Because you know better, and you know that you need to find the egg replacer that's right for your recipe based on that purpose that you just determined is the main purpose of the egg in your recipe. So how do you do that, and which egg replacers are best for what purpose? That's where it gets tricky. Now I'm going to be sharing with you the cheat sheets of all baking cheat sheets, going over every single one of the main egg replacers out there and what they're best used for next week. Until then, you might want to watch this video over here where I go over the best replacers for fluffy cakes, meaning that structure purpose. I will see you guys here next week with that cheat sheet. Until then, stay curious.